City Council member, the floor is yours for a couple of minutes.
I'm going to be more technical, I guess.
Yes.
It's very late. But good to see you. Good to see you, Jack. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm Councilmember Shekar Krishnan. I'm all the way from Queens, probably the reason other than before, but it's a while to get here. I really appreciate you all inviting me and all the work that you're doing. I couldn't agree more as I heard from Jasper coming into. I'm so glad that you all are meeting today and the work we do every single day with that decision. This could not be a more urgent issue. And I say it both as a council member representing a district that has some of the least amount of open space, schools, parks, whatever it may be in all of your city. We do not have public pools. Something the community, as you all know, is one of probably the most diverse communities in the world. But it also means so many of our children don't know how to swim either. And as the chair of the Parks Community Council, it is my mission in a broader sense to fight to make sure that we think about racial justice, social justice, equity, but also all of these perspectives, parks, schools, beaches, public space justice, and making sure that every New York City person, especially our children, know how to swim, how to train and educate water safety. And we haven't had good staffing for our pools and beaches, so the whole staffing policy falls squarely within that work that jurisdiction mandate of our city council. It could not be a more urgent issue. I think you all have seen when we had our monthly hearing just a few months ago, periodically checking out the update of where things stand for lifeguard goes. We are far behind where we need to be. City needs about 1,400 lifeguards to staff all of as we know. And at this point, we reached probably close to about 900 where we were last week. We're very far behind. You all know, and I'm going to tell you all, one, what that's meant in terms of water safety, the lack of concerns, what the impact of the program in the city, and what it means in the ways in which it exacerbates the disparity when it comes to access to food, as well as children being able to come. You all here in your advocacy work every day are making sure that that gap is filled, but we cannot do it. I maintain that our city government has a number of months on the responsibility to make sure that everyone knows how to access schools, beaches, and to water safety. We know that this case not just from a health safety standpoint, but from a climate standpoint. We from here so effectively assist. We are a city surrounded by water, and we're seeing the depth and surrounding this here too, with the flooding, just how urgent it is to be true swimming. So there are a few things that we're working on. We have legislation coming up that we're very proud of. We have those powers. I'm very proud to be pushing forward early on in September that would address this issue number in place. My bill in particular, I've been very focused on making sure that we are actually using it for lifeguard hiring for safety. Sure.
Okay. Bring it closer. Oh, this is a little better. But my bill in particular is requiring okay, got it. So my bill of the three in particular is requiring that the Parks Department every year provide an update on its lifeguard hiring, where it stands, how close it is to fully staffing pools and beaches. What are the water emergencies that have happened across our city every year? What are the steps that Parks is taking to maintain our public pools? And if there are public pools that are closed, what is the timeline to get them reopened? I think this is information. If we are going to solve this crisis, and that's what it is, it's a city crisis, it is a national crisis. If we are going to solve it, the work for next year, as you all know, begins now. It began last year, frankly. And every year I say it at our parks hearings, it begins well in advance of before we actually get to pools and beach season. So that bill in particular will require the accountability that we need from our city government and our parks department to make sure that we can actually address this crisis. And the bills that Councilmember Brooks Powers and Councilmember Menon put forward will augment or supplement the work that you all are doing too, which is to find ways to expand or open up new public pools, especially in communities like mine and others that don't have access to public pools. And on top of that too, to look at creative ways to get new pools open, Department of Education, school pools and otherwise too. But we've also, as a council, been able to, secure 5.3 million in funding for swim programs this year as well. So this is a priority of Speaker Adams. It's a priority of mine as the Parks Chair, a priority of our city councils. And we will continue to work with you all to advocate to ensure that it remains a priority of City Hall in the city of New York, and to make sure that we address the really serious crisis we face in this city when it comes to making sure that our children know how to swim and know how to have safe, employ safe practices in the water too. It is a holistic, comprehensive effort. We have a long, long way to go, but I do feel confident that each and every one of you here, who I've worked with in different ways, in different capacities, we have both the knowledge, the passion, and commitment in this room to make sure that we address this crisis once and for all. It's only going to get worse. And in the hearings that we have coming up this fall, we're going to be talking about these issues from a climate standpoint and otherwise, but this will be a part of it too. And as I said, we're not going to be able to be a sustainable city unless we take swimming and water safety as seriously and as urgently as we need to.
Shekar, thank you very much for your support for the allocation of the 5.3 million that will lead to second graders learning how to swim. Hopefully they'll become swim team members and lifeguards. So the resurgence of Swim for Life and your support for the allocation. Everybody in this room is heartfelt to prevent the drownings that needlessly go on. So thank you. We've got two more speakers. I know.
Thank you.
We've got two more speakers before the noon hour. The next speaker is Tracy Cauldron from Musa Swim.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy Cauldron. And full disclosure, I want to say I'm not an aquatics person. I am a youth development professional. I'm passionate about kids and communities. And I started Musa Swim back in 2015 when I first became aware of the pool that was in Jefferson High School that was not being used at all. If you're not familiar with Jefferson High School, it's in East New York, Brooklyn. At that time, I was supervising summer camps for a nonprofit that operated in East New York. And I thought it was a tragedy that my kids could not utilize that pool that had been restored. And I wish I had pictures to show you everyone, but it's a beautiful facility. And it just there wasn't the funding and the political will to open that pool to the community. And so I worked to form Musa into a nonprofit specifically to target communities of color, specifically boys of color, because they drown at the highest rates, take a whole lot of risk, to swim and certify them as lifeguards. Spoke to some of the lifeguards that I knew at the time, and what was consistent about their journey to becoming a lifeguard was that process taught them all the life skills that a youth development professional wants to instill in kids: responsibility, self-discipline, building self-esteem. All those things is a part of that process. And I was like, yeah, I want to do this. And so I literally begged friends and families and got money to start a program at Jefferson. I also want to shout out Councilmember Inez Barron. Back then, she gave us some seed money to start the program. And we've been at this since 2016, recruiting kids from Jefferson who, by the way, when we recruit them, the first question is, where are we going to swim, miss? These kids were in the building and not aware that there was this pool in their basement, which again, I think is a tragedy, and it speaks to the state of the city and where we are. Also in that community is East New York Family Academy that has had a pool at that time, but now has rebuilt their school, and it's a brand new facility. It has a pool. And last time I checked, it wasn't being fully utilized either. And so we have two brand spanking new pools within the, a 2 or 3 block radius in East New York that are underutilized. Thank goodness Jefferson is getting more use now. But again, back when I started the program, it was not being utilized. And we have had shoestring budgets. I've never had more than $5,000 and operated no more than 6 weeks at a time. And I'm telling you, we have trained kids to become lifeguards in that short period of time. The carrot is that we guarantee them a job. And so those kids work really, really hard within a 6-week period. And we've been able to teach all of the kids that participate in the program to swim. And we usually get about 5 or 10 lifeguards every session. But it is also about exposure, right? If they're not aware of this opportunity, our kids do not know about lifeguarding. They don't know that they can become a lifeguard at 16, and how much it pays. And it is the carrot that keeps them going. But I've seen kids transform through this process. And that's, on top of all the other reasons why it's very important that the city gets on top of this, preventing drownings and, giving access to communities of color. But I also want to lift up the other benefits for learning to swim and becoming a lifeguard, which are the same things that the DOE wants to do for every child, building that self-esteem, making them more responsible, keeping them on the right track. This is a way to do that. And so I'm really grateful that there's so many people here that are interested in doing this, because at times I felt like I was on an island by myself. I'm really, really excited that there is that political will to keep this going and to expose kids. And I just want to say, it's great that we're teaching young kids to swim, but don't forget about the older kids. There's not a lot of opportunities for them. And it's a missed opportunity to get them on this path to become lifeguards. These kids want to do this. They're capable of it, but this has not been available to them. And we really should be utilizing, I think there's 50 pools in New York City, and only a handful of them are operational. Some are being used for storage. So we need to, put some money to get these pools open, make them more accessible to the community. So it's just like a natural thing in East New York to swim. And that should be the goal. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. Where's Michael? I don't know where he is, but Michael's been, yeah.
The key solution takeaway from this is, how do we clone you so that you do this everywhere?
Listen, it is, I'm not doing anything special. I just, saw an opportunity and just thought it was, something that had to be done, and it just happened because I think it's the right thing to do. And when you're doing the right thing, doors open up for you. I have to say it hasn't been easy. The Department of Education doesn't make it easy to access their pools. Every year I get smacked with a $6,000 permit to use the pool. Most of that charge is for security guards, which are already in the building because the school is open after 3, for other after school activities. I'm recruiting kids from the school. I'm not bringing kids from outside. So why are you charging me $6,000 to use your pool that's not even being used? I don't pay it. I get out of it every year, but I mean, just the thought that, that when you call and say, can I use the pool and support your kids? That's the first thing they're going to tell you. You're going to have to get a permit and it's going to cost you $6,000. So, I just think, again, if there is the will, there is the way. And I'm really appreciative for everybody here today and willing to work with you all and partner, and anything I can share, I'm here to do that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Tracy, so great to meet you, and it's inspiring, actually, the stuff that you're doing. And I saw that pool in October, and it was astounding. And this is for the elected officials, because I think, was it Charles Barron who paid to have the?
Yes. So Charles Barron raised the money to restore it. And then him and his wife kind of switched. And around when I was doing first started Musa, she was the council member, and so she gave me the seed money to open the first program. Yeah.
Well, and going there, because I have the same swim pool. It's all about getting into the pool. But this is I talked to an athletic director for one of the 4 schools, right? There's 4 schools, as you know all this. And I was like, how does this all work? And in fact, Sheridan and I were just we're going around and around, and there's got to be a better way, right? And I am a DOE employee. I can get in buildings, but if I have folks who are lifeguards or certified WSI or not to teach kids, and they're not DOE people, do I think that can they get into the building? So again, it's fantastic. You're in a lot of ways a model that I see, like, get those high school kids, teach them to swim, get them to be lifeguards, get them inspired to work. So anyway, if you just want a little bit, because you guys are on the front line.
No, just to add on, it really applies to me.
And you mentioned it. Thank you. You mentioned it too. How difficult it is to obtain access to DOE pools as well. So that's something that I know, more to come, but we're very aware of it in the council, and we're trying to find ways to make that process easier and also expand other opportunities for pools too. But I agree with you. One of the most important things, if we're actually going to solve this issue, we have to make it simpler for people to have access in the first place.
Our final speaker is going to be Crystal Freed from Tank Proof.
Also, apologies, it's actually Frank. But as mentioned, I'm Director of Operations of Tank Group. I thought it'd be easier to do a little presentation. This presentation is actually a snippet of a deck that we utilize for our partnerships, which is kind of like a solution that we find is a really helpful tool for our organization. Through this presentation, you'll also see a lot of things you guys know. Of course, you guys are very aware of the drowning issue, the inequities, but this is how we get the people to acknowledge this, because the people in this room, a lot of people outside, especially corporations, do not know that this is an issue. I can't tell you how many times we go to buildings or places or people, and we have to tell them that drowning is the leading cause of death for children, and they're just like flabbergasted. And for us, that's such an important way of kind of presenting this as a tool for leveraging their way to access community support. Through this, we also kind of, have to present ourselves as a new modern version of a nonprofit organization. So we have been featured through a lot of publications. We were actually on the cover of USA Today last year to describe our mission. And I think a lot of what's important here is our partnerships that you see here. We've also worked with Volkswagen. And a lot of that has just been beneficial to us to be able to provide our swimming lessons throughout the US. We are currently located in 9 cities, you'll see later in the deck. But a lot of this has just been started through our founders, who are 2 twin brothers. Thurman himself actually experienced an episode of drowning when he was younger. That didn't initially start the mission of where they're at now. But when they were older, they were looking for a way to support their community, and they were musicians, and they were trying to think of an innovative way to support their communities. So they started selling band merch, and they started selling those band merch items as kind of tank tops that you would utilize the profits to give kids swimming lessons. And they kind of got the name Tank Proof. It was kind of like a play on words. So through that mission, they just kept selling the t-shirts, getting kids lessons. First, it was 150 kids 1 year, 250, just kept doubling. And then after the 5th year, they were able to actually get a group of instructors, local kids. And this area, they were actually living in Baton Rouge. So we were able to get a lot of college students involved, and that empowered a lot of people to help support us through our mission. So we got access to water pretty quickly. And it was just, again, a really supportive way of seeing a culture rising from this. And so the founders have a really wonderful way of creating a lot of creative content through that. So that kind of leads me into how we really support our mission. Again, a lot of this is really just to kind of give you guys an overview of what we share with our partnerships. Again, our mission is to serve the youth in our communities that we participate in. But this is strictly how we have told the organizations or companies and corporations with the money that's going to help us supply the lessons. So we go into these cities, we tell them we're going to be a part of your community. We're going to be there for 5 days, and we're giving the kids zero cost swimming lessons. And through that, we work with like anybody. We work with healthcare providers.